Good morning. Happy Saturday. And hello, beautiful women and beautiful leaders who are tuning in to this podcast this Saturday morning. I know that during this season, there are a lot of things going on and you got busy schedules. So we are glad that you are here taking a moment to take time out to tune in to what God has to say about you becoming a queenly leader. So I am your host, Tynisha Wooley. I'm a purpose and soul transformation coach, and we are welcoming you back to episode 2 of the Rise, Align, and Reign, the Queenly Leadership Series. And we are joined again by our resident Esther expert, Dr. Kimberly Flanders, who is the founder of Queenly Considerations. And we are jumping in today. We are transitioning. Last episode, we talked about who we are. This episode, we are transitioning into what we do when leadership requires action. So, we're going to really talk about the application of how we become queenly leaders and some of the challenges that we encounter as well. So, in today's conversation, I kind of want to jump in and say that one thing that I love about Esther's story is that she never confused urgency with obedience. With everything that was going on, she still found a way with support to remain grounded. She
Mhm.
paused, she discerned, she sought wisdom. And so I think for modern leaders, those characteristics or components can often feel countercultural when we are in some of situations that we feel are high risk. And so, Dr. Flanders, how can queenly leaders make decisions guided by faith and wisdom and not pride or pressure?
Mm. So, great question. Good morning. I see we are jumping right into the meat. So, I agree that, especially in some times of the year for your industry, there are times when it is high pressure, fast paced, and that is a fact of life. But it's also
Mhm.
important to be mindful of where information is coming from, thinking about what the impact will be, and thinking about who you are. So, as we have those situations where we're needing to move quickly, we do even a pause, a 5-second pause, a 10-second pause when possible will or can help a leader make all the difference. Because to your question about the pride, sometimes we don't pause to think about why we are deciding to say or do something. I've been in situations where in the moment it was maybe because of who the person was that made the request or recommendation. I didn't want to agree, or not thinking about long term ramifications. So just being able to center yourself quickly, um, to reestablish what's necessary in those spaces is definitely important. And, if you say something and then as the conversation continues and you realize, wait, let's revisit, it's okay to say, let's go back. Hold on, I've had additional opportunities to
Mhm.
process, to reflect, and actually, I want us to consider this instead. So, I mean, people recognize too that as you're moving quickly, you have a right to change. Now, of course, you can't waffle back and forth all the time, but just being intentional about knowing what you need to consider. So,
Mm.
your question is so complex, and I love it because there's so much that needed to happen before you even got to the spot. So, in the rooms that you're in, knowing your business, knowing the stakeholders, knowing the impact just in general helps. So, if you're already prepared, if you're knowledgeable and competent, then that processing can occur more quickly than if you have no idea. And so sometimes it's just necessary to think about that as well.
Mm. So good. So it sounds like a very heavy dose of discernment
Hmm.
really protects your assignment in those different situations, as well as what you have to deliver as a leader.
Hmm.
So, talking about discernment, being able to communicate, being able to move between different spaces, I feel like communication is often misunderstood because there are so many different components of communication. There's what you're trying to say, that's what the other person hears, and so how well is the person listening? How are they listening? So many different components, and so it's not just about speaking. It really is about receiving, interpreting, and ensuring that your message really lands as you intended it to.
Mhm.
And so, what do you think makes communication a leadership responsibility and not just a personality trait?
Well, and I love how you compare it to a responsibility and a trait because we do communicate as humans. Like we are social animals. Communication is one of the first things we do when we're born. We cry when we're hungry, sleepy, all the things, and then we learn language. Um, and so some people, oh, they're a great communicator. They talk a lot. They're very engaging. And those can be considered personality traits. But regardless of how introverted or extroverted, how charismatic, reserved, whatever those traits are that you have, when you step into a leadership role, you are still responsible for ensuring that messages are transmitted correctly through your organization and to your stakeholders. And first, it's about what you receive. So, even in a simple interaction, if a leader isn't truly listening to the question, then your response isn't in alignment with where we're going. And so I've seen and experienced a number of times when, I wasn't really listening, I wasn't really cued in. So I answered a question, and the question that I answered was not the question that was asked. And my answer, if I hadn't caught it or because I didn't catch it, it led to a team member or someone moving in a way that was counterintuitive to what I wanted, but it was because they did what I said based on me not listening. Um, and then on the other side, once we have a clear understanding of what the question is, and I generally, particularly when they're very complex questions, try to restate so that the person that I'm talking to knows that I understood them first, and so that they can check me and correct me if I'm going to answer in the wrong way. But then sharing my information, it requires a check in with them as well, and recognizing where we as leaders are strong and not. I know that when I get really excited, and I don't even have to be really excited, but when I'm, ideating and thinking about new things, I talk while brainstorming. And so I can go 5 different ways in 30 seconds. And, you know, and once I've decided the right way to go, 9 times out of 10, the people that were listening are like, what is she talking about? Well, I, as a leader, have to recognize that, yes, I would love for everyone to be able to keep up with my train of thought because I'm saying it out loud, but that's not a realistic expectation. So then it's my responsibility to go back and summarize what the actual action items are so that I can ensure that they're clear and that the directions will move forward.
Wow. So many good nuggets in there that I think you have to consider with communication. And I think from what you're saying, what I really get is that communication is not just an action, it's more when you're operating in your queenly leadership, it's more of a stewardship.
Mm.
And so you are really intentional about what you say, what you hear, how you interact. And so it's something that requires more thought than just getting up there and saying words or just speaking to people.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely something to consider when you're thinking about your leadership journey is how do I communicate and how am I received?
Well, and I would also add, self awareness is key. And you used the word pride in the first question, but it comes through in communication as well. Because if you're not able to see and watch, they don't seem to be getting it,
Mhm.
then that's not necessarily a them problem. That's a you situation. And so we have to be mindful and aware enough and okay with ourselves to say, okay, wait, maybe I wasn't clear. Let me restate to get to a space of understanding.
So good. So definitely self-awareness.
Mhm.
So, okay, I want to move on and I want to talk a little bit about celebrating yourself as a
Mhm.
leader or celebrating your accomplishments. I
Mhm.
think that that is often an area where a lot of leaders struggle in, especially high capacity women, you know, who are excellent about moving forward, moving on to the next task. And so I really want to look at the difference between moving into your queenly leadership space, which teaches you to pause. And so, can you talk to us a little bit about why celebration is not necessarily a luxury, but it really is a leadership strategy?
Absolutely. And pause, of course, is relative. So, how long is the pause? Could you take a week off after a huge victory? Sure. But a pause could also be, a 30-minute celebration, a 1 hour lunch, like what you need. But it's not a luxury because as we produce, as we provide outcomes, I'm going to ask you a strange question. What'd you have for lunch on Tuesday?
Good question. I can't even remember.
You can't remember exactly. And lunch is a minor thing, but thinking
Mhm.
about all of the things that we do, we won't remember. And so, one, it's important to pause to celebrate that because if you just keep moving, then you don't get a chance to truly reflect on how far you've come. Because once you start celebrating that moment, then, oh, wait, I did this and I did this as well. So then it becomes further motivation and encouragement to know that the next big thing that you have planned, the next challenge or hurdle that you have to overcome, you can do those things. And so, we are, many of us are constantly just striving, striving, striving. And we have to, I think the celebration lets us have a moment to realize that we probably are thriving instead.
Mm. So good. So how do you now I'm curious, how do you balance like okay, I did this huge accomplishment, I'm celebrating. How do you balance honoring your progress without then like okay, that's it, you know, without losing momentum?
I think that's a mindset because, and again, it depends on what celebration looks like for you and the momentum that you have and what's next. Because if in that moment, the space is for you to rest, then rest. And then when it's time for you to move forward again, then you will. But I think if you're in a space where God is continuously pushing you, then the momentum will continue because now you can say, wow, I'm already on track. I have this celebration and continue. So I think that those are actually maybe two different things because even if you don't celebrate yourself, if it's not time for you to move to the next, then you won't have the momentum anyway.
Mm, okay. So many nuggets being dropped this morning. I love this. So make sure if you guys are watching live that you share this so that other women can get inspired by what is being shared here. So of course we can't do an episode without talking about purpose.
Okay.
One of my favorite topics.
It's in your title.
And so for me, purpose requires vision,
Mhm.
right? When God gives us this assignment, there also comes, you know, Bible also talks about making that vision, making it plain.
Mhm.
And part of the vision is executing it.
Mhm.
So, how do queenly leaders do you feel like? Well, let me add this. I think sometimes, well, not sometimes, but when we feel we have an assignment from God, it's often what I call a God assignment.
Mhm.
So it is far bigger than anything that we feel that we have the capacity for, skills, gifting, and I think that's on purpose.
Mhm.
God designs it that way so that we can depend on others, operate in community, depend on Him first and foremost, and so that we're continuously growing.
Mhm.
And so, in that space of trying to continuously be obedient to produce fruit in your purpose, how do queenly leaders follow through when they meet moments of fatigue and resistance?
Mm. I would say one, accepting that you're tired, that
Mm.
you're that you're having these feelings. I am, you know, a, I'm talking to myself. It's like I'm not tired. I can do it. I can. And sometimes the pause is necessary because if we are so fatigued, that is our body telling us that we need a moment to rest. And that could be 30 minutes, it could be a nap, it could be a day. But if we don't pause to rest, then there is probably something in the future that is going to be negatively impacted, and that impact is going to be compounded because we have pushed ourselves to the limit. Because even though God gives us a God assignment that is certainly larger than our human capacity, he gives us the ability to do it, but he also wants us to rest. He created the earth in 6 days, and the seventh day he rested. And sometimes we get, this excitement and we won't stop. And then the resistance comes because we know and we're frustrated with ourselves or in ourselves because we haven't made sure to keep our cups and our bodies filled, healthy, and whole to allow the assignment to occur.
So good. And I think I am feeling conviction here because this is an opportunity for growth, area of growth for me. Because I think I get so excited about the vision and so excited about my to do list. And it's like, well, I need to do the next thing on the to do list so that I can keep
Mhm.
going, keep building that momentum. And so, how do I think for me, I'm all about to do lists. And I think that, most leaders do have a list that they're trying to, check off every day, whether it's mentally or physically. I'm old school, so I like, paper, checking things off. So for those of us who are like, I need to make sure I check off everything on my to do list to feel accomplished for the day, I think part of the learning curve there is learning how to delegate because many of the things on our to do list could possibly be done by a team member, someone else, and so all of the things don't have to be done by us.
Mhm.
So, as we're moving into our queenly leadership area, what does delegation look like when we trust others with what God has assigned us? And I say that specifically because it can be hard when you feel like God has assigned you something. It's your baby, it's your project, like the vision. Can't nobody do it like me.
Mhm.
And so, how do we begin to release some of those tasks on our to do list so that we are not fatigued?
Mm. So great question. But before I answer your question, I heard another question in there that you didn't say, but I'm going to answer anyway. And really the question is first, is your to-do list realistic? Because a lot of times we put so many things, and I'm going to do this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and it's not possible. And so, first, is get into a space where we recognize human capacity, our capacity, and that of others. Because even when we move to delegation, if we don't understand how long tasks take or what that means, then we also delegate things to people that can't be done within the time frame that we set if we haven't thought that through. So I
Mhm.
did want to say that first before answering the question that you really asked. Um,
That's good. Mhm.
so how do we delegate when it's the vision that God gave us? So you kind of already answered it because you already said it first. Many of the things that we're supposed to do, particularly those large things, have to be done in community. And so God didn't give it to us to do it, He gave it to us to ensure that it is done in the earth. So that's first. But once you have identified those individuals that you can trust, and that's a key. So make sure that the people on your team are individuals that you trust will do the work in accordance with your vision. Then it's about you making a vision plain for them. If I ask you to make me a hat, but I don't tell you what color hat I like, I don't tell you if it's an Easter hat or a baseball cap, if I don't give you what really matters, big picture for that hat, then you're going to give me a hat that I don't want because I didn't clearly explain that. But
Mhm.
on the flip side, if you share the points that truly matter, the timeline, what the real goal is, what the true outcome is, and then recognize that though you might drive to the left, well, there's a side street to the right. And if they go down that side street, but you both end up at the same location, then let them go the way they want to go. You just set the parameters and the clear information so that they know exactly what they're working towards. Also,
Mhm.
recognizing that it might not, even if it's not 100% like you think it should be and want it to be, is it still meeting the goal? And if it met the goal, move on because there are other things that need your attention and expertise.
So good. Okay, so queenly leadership equals mature leadership.
Oh, yeah.
Mature leadership equals navigating between responsibility and release, is
And
what I
knowing
heard you
what
say.
can be released and what can't,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
you can't release the vision crafting to the team member. That's yours.
Yes.
But an outcome, an event, they could do that. So, it's about recognizing where your attention and expertise is needed and where it's not.
Mhm. So good. Ladies, I hope you are taking notes. This is so, so good. Okay, one more thing I want to dive into before we kind of wrap up today's episode. And I want to talk about something. Again, I'm just sharing all of my leadership areas of growth here. This next particular one is not my area of strength, which is documenting. And I
Mm,
think it's one of the most overlooked practices in
same.
leadership
Absolutely.
because, how do you keep a record, of what has already gone before you and what you have done?
Mhm.
And so, how or why is follow through in this way, do you think, a spiritual responsibility and not just a task?
Mm. Well, one, similarly to our conversation about celebration, you don't remember what you had on Tuesday to eat.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times we have similar situations, similar issues that arise. And so if we're not documenting what was done previously, then we're always in a space of, okay, well, let me figure it out. Let me figure it out. You don't have to figure it out. You've already figured it out. Just implement, do the same thing, which then goes to the delegation because now you have process. And so you can have other people to handle the situations that you already addressed previously. Um, but then in addition to that, just think about the Bible itself. Like almost everything, think about the law of Moses, think about the Gospels. The same information is said over and over again, and sometimes in the exact same way because our memories are short. And so it's not, we're not created to just hold all of this knowledge and information in the brain to pull immediately. We have language for a reason. We have documentation for a reason to be able to have this encyclopedia of knowledge, one for ourselves, but two for people that come after us, for people that are working with us, so that it can continue without always having to start over. If you have a good succession plan, because with the God thing that you're given, the hope, I believe, is that it will continue after you're gone. But in having it continue after you're gone, you don't want the person that steps in to have to start over and figure everything out, because then that negates all the work that you put in, the years that you or the time that you've done so. So it allows for constant growth and movement forward versus always having to go back to the drawing board, always having to start over, always having to ideate. And so, yeah, I think that it's just a necessity to continue for the posterity.
Absolutely. I agree. I think it saves time for
Mhm,
sure because
mhm,
there's so many times when I have done a process and then I'll start it again a couple of months down the road and I'm like, I already did this. Like it's like so keeping that documentation, and I think something that you said that I think is really beautiful is talking about the legacy piece of it, right? And leaving something that the future, your children, your family, whoever, your future team members can grow on. I think one of the I was in a training the other day, and one of the examples they used was Walt Disney and
mhm,
how like his vision for that company still stands today.
mhm.
The CEOs who are running it, I mean, they're going back to what his original words are and what he wanted for Disney. And I think that that just speaks so much to someone who has a powerful vision and communicating that vision. And it's been able to stand all these years later. So, documentation is a powerful gift that I think helps you as a leader outlive the moment and outlive yourself. And so, very crucial. It could be time consuming, but definitely the benefits are far greater than the short time that it takes to actually do it.
Well, in time consuming, what does that mean too? Because now we have so many tools. We have AI, we have transcriptions, we have, so many ways to capture the information definitely more quickly than in the past.
Mhm.
So it can be time consuming, but the time, the energy, the resources saved, totally worth it in the future.
You're right. So thank you for that mindset reframe. That it doesn't have to be time consuming,
Mhm.
but definitely necessary part of the leadership cycle.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So we are at the end of this episode in our Queenly Leadership series already. We are wrapping it up. It's been so much fun. It's been so enlightening to have these chats. And I definitely encourage you guys, if you missed the other two episodes, to go back and watch those episodes. You can find them at Purposely Made Life TV on YouTube, because you want to make sure that you get all of these nuggets from the beginning to the end. And if you want to dive even deeper into becoming a queenly leader, Dr. Flanders, please tell everyone how they can continue to stay connected with you.
Sure. So my website is cleanlyconsiderations.com. I do have workshops scheduled for January the 10th. So go to the website, feel free to sign up there. Also follow me on Instagram, Kimberly Flanders PhD, or Facebook, Kimberly Flanders. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you again for joining me for the series. We'll have to do it again sometime. It's been fabulous. And I just want to remind all of you ladies who are watching this that developing a queenly leadership mindset, stepping into those queenly leadership actions, is not a rushed process. It's something that you learn day by day. It's something that you steward, that you protect, that you grow into. And so, wherever you are on your journey, whether you're just beginning, you're in the middle, you feel like you're seasoned, it's never too late to continue to grow and to continue to expand the woman that God is calling you to become. So until next time, thank you all for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day.